Hello and welcome to the American English Cafe. And my new favorite poet, TomFoolery, has said that he's going to write a new poem every day for the year. And I'd like to use his poems, and he speaks British. And I would like to read them with American English and comment on the vocabulary and see what we can learn from his very positive messages every day. So for January 3rd, he wrote, I came to the park just before sunrise and flicked the sleep out of my eyes. I approached the bench I always rest on, but sitting there to my surprise, a kind old face looked up at me. I turned to leave and shook my head. A fine old morning, isn't it? The kind old bench thief said. To be polite, I turned back to him and then sat down with a heave. I come here every morning and I watch the sunrise, then I leave. My new old mate just chuckled and said, Do you think so? Is that right? For our language can be so deceptive with the dawning trick of morning light. I sat there not understanding, and he could see I was perplexed. He said, Allow me to explain myself. You see, our world is so complex. It does look like a sunrise, but that isn't quite the case. We live upon a spinning rock that's hurtling through space. It's true the sun is moving like all things in the Milky Way, but that isn't the phenomenon that you wake to watch each day. I know you already know this, and I'm not saying anything new, but isn't it so much more meaningful to think it's us that are spinning into view? We are rotating through a galaxy at roughly 1,000 miles per hour, circling a burning ball of hydrogen with unmatched majesty and power. We humans are a funny bunch. We like to play inventor and think that's all of this exists for us and our life is at the center. And though stunning our existence is, we do well to pay tribute, to be an atom of this grandeur play, and not dominate, but contribute. With a wry old grin, he upped and left, and I felt a wave of warmth and light. For in that moment, on my spinning globe, the morning sun peeked into light. So I'd like to comment on a few words. At the end, his transcript said peaked, P-E-A-K-E-D. But I think what he really meant was peaked, P-E-E-K-E-D. And peaked means, first C with a I, just I peak. The peaked, P-E-A-K-E-D, would be a homophone. Homo means same, and phone means sound. And peaked, the sun peaks at noon when it's the highest in the sky. So the first word, of course, is park. Now in Britain, they say park. The R is much less strong than in American English. And a bench is what more than one person can sit on in a park. And so he says, and what inspired me to make this lesson was when he said bench thief. I thought, what a beautiful poetic way to say. Somebody who's sitting where I always come every morning and expect to have that seat for me because I am the center of the universe and that's my bench to come watch the sunrise. So the man wasn't really stealing the bench. He was just using the bench to sit on to watch the sunrise. And because there are no accidents, it was to meet tomfoolery. So dawn is when the sun first comes up in the morning, but dawn is also a metaphor for the beginning, the dawning of a new age or a new idea, dawn, D-A-W-N. Deceptive means something we think is one thing or sounds like one thing, but really means something different. And perplexed means, I don't quite understand. I'm perplexed. So complex means complicated. Many things come together in systems. So our world is very complex. Everything fits together. And hurtling. Hurtling means traveling very fast, driving very fast, or running very fast. Our globe, he says, is hurtling through space at 1,000 miles an hour. The Milky Way, people in the city never get to see the Milky Way. You have to go out where it's dark, where there's not light, to see all the millions of stars in our galaxy. We look up and it looks like a million stars. So that's what we call the Milky Way, is the galaxy that our solar system is a small part of. Phenomenon is phenomenal. Phenomenon is something that is very wondrous to imagine. And magnificent is wonderful. Something is magnificent. And our galaxy. We're in the Milky Way galaxy. The solar system is just one star and planet system in the Milky Way galaxy. And there are many thousands or millions of galaxies that beyond what we can count. Roughly. Rough means not smooth, but roughly means not exactly. Roughly means about. About is one of my favorite words. It means not exact. So roughly 1,000 miles an hour. And in Britain and in America, we say miles. Most of the rest of the world says kilometers. So 1,000 miles is roughly 1,600 kilometers. And hydrogen is the smallest atom. In chemistry, we learn about hydrogen gas. And the sun burns hydrogen to make helium in a fusion reaction we can learn about in chemistry and in physics. And majesty is something wonderful, majesty to imagine. And inventor. And who's the most famous inventor that you know of? When I think of inventor, the first thing I think of is Thomas Edison, who invented many things in our modern life. We don't use any of what he invented as he invented. They've all been developed and improved on. We've made new kinds of electric lights, and we don't use phonograph records anymore. The men made CDs, and now everything is digital, and many things that Thomas Edison was the inventor. We think that, this poem to me is, we think that we're the masters of the universe. But I think that when we realize that we're just a small part, and that we're on this earth for a short time, and that after mankind, the world, the earth will go on and evolve in some new form of life. But tribute is to give credit where credit is due. And so it's good to pay tribute to our teachers and the people who came before, our ancestors, all of the people who have gone before us. And an atom, he speaks of an atom of hydrogen, would be the tiniest piece, a proton and an electron. And elements are made of atoms, and there are a little more than 100 elements that make up, in combination, everything, all of the matter in our world. And contribute means to give. What do I have to give? What can I do for the good of other people? Contribute. What can I give? And wry. He had a wry smile. So W-R-Y. He wasn't a big laugh. It was a wry smile. And peaked, I said before. Peaked means, just a little look. The sun peaks over the horizon, and then it peaks at the highest point at noon. And we talked before in class about the solar system, and our Earth rotates on its axis once every 24 hours, and the moon orbits the Earth about once every 28 days, and the sun, the Earth and the moon together orbit the sun once a year. And rotate means to turn around, and circle, and cycle. And there are many cycles: life cycle and bicycle. And cycle is something that goes around and then starts new. And spin and axis and globe. Our globe is like a ball. So Earth is a globe. He calls it a rock that circles the sun. So this was his poem for January 3rd. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd like you to read through and think about the vocabulary and think of the meanings from his poetic way of speaking and conveying things. Thank you for visiting the American English Cafe.